So the controversy, or this second controversy over the woman king promoting enslavers, is ridiculous and stupid. I want to believe that it's a very small group. It's very vocal, but I want to believe it's a very small group of people, probably some of them encompassing ADOS, which I'll explain in another video what that is, that are complaining about this film, saying it's an evil film that is promoting enslavers. Here's the issue. The Fon of Dahomey were not the only West African ethnic group that participated in the transatlantic slave trade. They damn near all were. Damn near all West Africans participated in the transatlantic slave trade, and damn near all Africans, even the ones who didn't participate in the transatlantic slave trade, because the majority of the transatlantic slave trade was focused upon West Africa. You're talking South Africa, East Africa, other parts. They had indigenous domestic forms of slavery, because of course they did. Again, the reason why this controversy is dumb is that if you're gonna somehow label the Fon of Dahomey as all evil and participate in the transatlantic slave trade, you basically have to do that for all of Africa. And the thing that really gets me is that these people lack any kind of common sense. Africa was and is a continent. Africans did not have our African ancestors did not have a concept of race. They did not have a concept of racial unity. They did not have a concept of pan-African, pan-continental awareness. Many African ethnic groups, many of them, maybe even some of their royals and their elites, most certainly even some of their royals and elites that were more educated than the peasant classes, didn't even have a concept of the shape of the continent as a whole. Just like Native Americans, just like Australian Aborigines, just like Asians, just like pretty much all people in the world, Africans did not have a concept of racial awareness and a pan-continent unity and awareness. Back then, your ethnic group was your race. Native Americans weren't Native American until Europeans showed up. Back in the day, an Iroquois man, his race was Iroquois. An Aztec man's race was being Aztec. A Navajo woman's race was being Navajo. Native Americans fought each other. They sold other Native Americans into slavery. But again, that's tricky language, because Africans weren't selling other Africans into slavery. Black people weren't selling other black people into slavery. Africans were doing what they were told by their elites. They were doing what they believed was right to protect the national security of their kingdom, their queendom, their ethnic group. Go back in the past, way, way back in the past. Look at the Romans, look at the Greeks. The Romans thought the Gauls were savages. The Romans had no concept of being European. They had no concept of being white, in the same way that the Greeks had no concept of being white or European. Hell, the Greek city-states fought each other all the time. Their race wasn't even being Greek. Their race was practically their city-state. This is the issue that I have with most people. The Yoruba of Oyo also participated in the transatlantic slave trade, not just the Fon of Dahomey. So did the Akan ethnic groups in the Akan city-states. How do you think we got enslaved people in Jamaica? Again, our African ancestors, Europeans, are the ones who introduced race-based, permanent, hereditary, hierarchical slavery. They introduced race-based slavery. And I shouldn't even have to tell you the scale of which race encompasses that ethnicity doesn't. There is no concept of the entirety of the African continent, that the entirety of the African race, regardless of ethnicity, religion, whatever, was inferior to Europeans. That was a European construct that not only worsened indigenous forms of slavery in the African continent, but it also simply created wars and conflict. Europeans introduced guns. Cycles of violence in West Africa started because other ethnic groups that may have had enslaved other Africans due to a war conflict, but may not have participated in the transatlantic slave trade, started to, because I need guns to protect my women and my children and my men and my people from possible slave raids from other groups. It was like almost McCarthy. It was this conspiracy. It was this fear of each other. And again, it's kind of racist when you think about it. Some of what these people are claiming. Think about it. The Nubians and Egyptians thousands of years ago went to war with each other. You know, they fought each other. Different Africans had peace treaties with each other. Different Africans had war and conflict with each other. That's an African ethnic group that had a positive relationship with another African ethnic group and a negative one with another African ethnic group for hundreds or even maybe thousands of years. That's not automatically just going to disappear just because a bunch of white aliens show up on a boat and start talking to you. Even for some of the African elites who began to maybe understand this concept of race, this pan-continent awareness that even though we're different ethnicities, we are of one African race, we are of one racial background, they would not have been emotionally or mentally or spiritually invested in that. Because again, these were people with different languages that, apart from an interpreter or someone who's bilingual, couldn't even understand each other. These are people of different religious and cultural backgrounds, of different worldviews. My responsibility as queen or king was to my people. Again, I am not saying what our African ancestors did was morally right. Slavery, no matter what type it is wrong. Some forms of slavery were far worse than others, but all of them were immoral. But it just feels ridiculous. But it doesn't just feel, it is ridiculous that we even have to talk and explain this thing that people should already know. Europeans, when they went to Native Americans of North and South America, when they went to Australian Aborigines, when they conquered parts of Asia, when they went to Africa, yes, they worsened divides, but these places were already inherently divided because that's what a continent is. A continent is inherently divided ethnically because it's a continent. The Fawn of Dahomey already had a bad relationship with the Yoruba of Oyo and other West African ethnic groups, etc., etc. The irony was that the people that would end the enslaved Africans, our ancestors, were the victims, women and children, the victimizers, and warriors, soldiers, and the third group, people that were both victims and victimizers at the same time. Africans that were warring with each other, that were slave raiding one another in these cycles of violence going back and forth. If they got too close to the coast, Europeans wouldn't care. Portuguese, Spanish, French wouldn't care. They would capture them. Many of the Dahomey Amazons that were captured, many of the Akan ethnic groups that were warring with each other. If you're a Black North American, if you're African American, you know the colors of the Akan peoples. Harriet Tubman's foremothers and forefathers were Ashanti. They were of the Akan people. The Dahomey Amazons and Akan peoples that were fighting each other, the irony was that, or maybe not the irony, at least to me, shouldn't be surprising, it's historic common sense. If they got too close to the coast, they got captured. And they were behind some of the most successful rebellions in the history of the African enslaved diaspora, of the African race, of the African people. So yeah, this controversy is stupid. It's a non-controversy. It is actually historically true that there were some Dahomey Amazons who were starting to be against participating in the transatlantic slave trade and were looking for alternatives to their people's wealth and to their people's national security. But again, like a lot of African civilizations, it was also a monarchy. It even took them time on plantations to see that. Dahomey Amazons, Akan ethnic groups, they were behind the Jamaican Maroons and Jamaican rebellions. They were behind the Haitian rebellion. Abaroya Toya was a Mino warrior. She was a Dahomey Amazon. She was captured. She was put into race-based slavery by Europeans into Haiti, and she would eventually be a part of this generational conflict, this rebellion that would end up being the Haitian Rebellion against the French, where African people, regardless of language, religion, culture, ethnic ties, ethnic loyalties, came together and revolted. And that's what I mean. Like, if at the end of the day, our ancestors shouldn't have to apologize for being normal. Of course they were enslaving each other. Of course they were making love to each other. Of course they were making unity and peace treaties between different ethnic groups while going to war with other ethnic groups. Because the concept of being African, of being Black, of a pan-African awareness did not exist at the time.